Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, your lovely ray of sunshine. And for those of you who do not know, my name is Sunday, and I am sharing my true life story. It's titled Runaway Sunshine. It's on TikTok, and I'm about to start bringing it over into YouTube. So when I post this on YouTube, hey YouTube. So what am I covering today? I have a passion for the foster care system. My passion is because I was damaged in foster care. I was literally fucking broken and destroyed in foster care, and as a baby. And that's sad to say and sad to accept, but the fact is the fact, okay? So on TikTok, I've been talking for the last few months about a project that I'm working on personally, myself, about the foster care system, the missing children, the victimized children, the victimization rates, the different types of victimizations. And to understand that, you have to first understand its history. You ever heard the phrase, one bad apple spoils the bunch? Well, that could not be any further from the truth. Once you have rot and rot has set in, it takes the whole bundle, okay? Same way with your teeth. You get one rotten tooth, it takes many more until you get that rot out. You can't fix them, right? Okay, so now that we have that understanding, we can move forward. I want you to understand that right now, this is just a summary of all the things that I'm about to cover with my article that I have been writing and working on for the last 3, 4, 5 months. I don't even know. I just lose time. So I have put a lot of work into this. I've got a lot of numbers, a lot of facts that can be proven with sources, and I want you all to brace yourselves, because this is definitely a rabbit hole ride, but it is not a conspiracy at all. Conspiracies cannot be proven through numbers, cannot be proven through facts, cannot be proven through sources. Conspiracies just can't be proven. They're just thoughts of others. This is not my thoughts. These are based on facts, and I want you to understand that, okay? So to understand the history of foster care, how far back do we have to go? I'm not going to give you a whole history lesson on these different countries that first started it. What I am going to say is that, to the best of my knowledge, my understanding is that foster care technically started in Greece and Rome. Okay, so the Romans would basically go out, conquer nations, and the people that they don't unalive, they take what survives back to Rome. Now the children, they put in boarding schools, and in these boarding schools, these children from these different nations are indoctrinated into the way of living as a Roman. You understand? Now we're going to skip past that, and then we're going to jump into 17th century America. Okay, 17th century America is around when they started what they call civilization schools here in America. Civilization schools were basically boarding schools, but they were boarding schools to teach what they called savage how to be civilized. But why were these people savage? Because we come to their nation, we conquered them, we pushed them out of their green lush land, we forced them into the Trail of Tears and into the desert where they can't grow food. We put them at our mercy. What better way to control a nation than through their children? What better way to dictate their future than to dictate the children? We have to understand exactly what this means, and it is a very deep meaning, okay? The U.S. military at the time, we didn't really have what you would call a U.S. government. We had a U.S. military. U.S. military at the time would withhold food from these different tribes until they forfeited their children. Children as young as 3 and 5 years old were forfeited, and they were put into these civilization schools where they were broken, made to forget their heritage, their religion, their spirituality, their native tongue, forced to cut their hair, which was spiritual in every aspect. They cut their hair based on burial rituals and things. So to fit in to what we call society, these children lost their very core identity. Now, I'm very big on identity. I actually covered that in my first few videos, how you get your personality, character, and your identity, your individuality. That's very important. And as it sits right now as a nation, we're all losing that. And we're still falling back into the same narrative. Those who don't know their history are forced to repeat it. We repeat it continuously throughout history. That is proven. We do not want to repeat this history. Okay? Our children are being taken, and by the hundreds of thousands. And our children being taken started in 1853 with a man called Charles. I forget his last name, but it starts with a B, and I will cover it whenever I start reading it. Okay? So Charles started the Children's Aid Society or something like that. It's the CAS. And he started advocating for that in 1853, and it was officially implemented in 1854. I want you to understand what was going on around this time, though. See, around this time we had chattel slavery. Chattel slavery had already been in effect for hundreds of years. Chattel slavery was very atrocious. Crimes against humanity on all different levels, and anyone who was involved in it, I'm sorry, but they were less than human. And that is my ancestors included. You understand? Me personally, I accept personal accountability even though I wasn't there. I have not benefited from it because I'm actually quite fucking poor. And I work my ass off to get everywhere I want to be in life. But it doesn't mean that other family members have not. So I will move forward, okay? So chattel slavery, horrible. We're looking at 1854 though. Chattel slavery ends in 1865. This is relevant. I want you to understand, okay? So in 1854, what did we have going on? We had civil war because some people wanted chattel slavery, others did not. Civil war. Differences, right? A country divided. We had yellow fever. We had tuberculosis, among other diseases. They were just wiping out adults by the thousands. These adults were leaving behind children. Children were laying in the streets crying, hungry, starving, not clothed, dirty, becoming diseased. And our so-called society was walking past these children. Newborn babies in the streets. Food deprived, about to be unalived because they're deprived of food. They don't have the mother's milk anymore, so they're not going to make it, right? Other children, some are old enough to watch after themselves and their siblings, and that's just not acceptable. I mean, why would I let you watch after your siblings? You're not capable of doing that. Somebody has to intervene. So who intervened? Who intervened was called the Three Sisters Orphanage. That's basically what it sums down to. I'll give you the history on that too whenever I get ready to cover it. And then the New York Founderling Hospital and CAS. So between these three, they funded what you call the orphan train. Orphan train started up in 1854. It went to 1929. It transported more than 200,000 kids that they could count. Just that they could count. Now we're going to get into the interesting part of this because, see, the question is, how were these programs funded? If we didn't have a federal government, who funded them? That's a good question. And then if we didn't have a federal government, who paid the new fostering families, right? The thing is that whenever I got to looking into following the money, and that's what I like to do, I like to follow the numbers, right? When you follow the money, the new foster families, they didn't get paid. No, they donated to the cause. So anytime the train came through with a herd of children, these new fostering families, they would donate to the orphan train and receive children. So what does it sound like? This sounds like they're paying for children. It's just reworded a different way. It's just reworded a different way so that it looks professional. They just donated to the cause to help save these desolate children, right? The problem with that is that they bought these children. They bought these children, and then later the organization grew to the point where you could order children. You could order them based on their eye color, their hair color, their sex, their stature, their nationality. You could actually order them via postcard. And the orphan train would come through and drop these children off. As the orphan train was passing through these different cities and states, they would actually stage these children on stages and auction blocks and church congregations to get them proper living situations. So I ask, could poor people have foster kids? Because poor people are capable of loving foster children, right? No, poor people couldn't have foster kids because they couldn't afford to take care of themselves. It just was not in proper standing for a poor family to receive a foster child. There's no way they could love that foster child because they don't have the money, right? No, poor people couldn't have foster kids because they couldn't buy them, okay? So let's understand this. Now, as I get further into it, it's going to start talking about indentured servitude and child exploitation. Let's visit the word of exploitation. Exploitation is a broad spectrum. Exploitation means, how can I use you? That's basically what that is. What can I do to utilize you? Not myself, but you. Now, let's reflect on chattel slavery. How did they exploit those people? Let's think about that. I don't want to get into the atrocities of that. We should know that history. We've essayed, I didn't, but my ancestors did. Essayed the mothers, the daughters, the sons, the fathers, and those who they couldn't control, they unalived, cut off limbs, used their hair for pillows, used their skin for wallets and shoes. I can keep going. Alligator babies, they'd feed babies to alligators to catch them. I could keep going. It is so atrocious. It is so horrible. So let's ask ourselves what happened to these kids who were put into indentured servitude as young as 3 years old. Kids that did not belong to these people. And the very people who have these kids are the very people who have chattel slavery. Think about that. They did not treat these kids any different. I want you to understand that. If these kids were put into indentured servitude, they were indentured because they have to pay for their clothing, their roof over their head, the food that they eat, the education that they may or may not get. Understand that, okay? So if the beginning of our foster care system was indentured servitude for children as young as 3 years old, child exploitation, what do we think our system is today? Please use gracious consideration there. I was made a wife at 5 years old. I lost my virginity when I was 5. Think about that. The majority of the young girls who come out of foster care, 100% of them, no matter the age group that they are returned home or released from the system, demonstrate as usual behaviors. They shouldn't even know about these behaviors at certain ages. Shouldn't know about them. I want you all to understand what that means. This year, in 2025, our federal government passed Title IV 8 and IVBE. I'll cover it. It's in my papers, okay? But they passed another bill on foster care. And they say it's to help with the crisis of caseworkers, to allow the Indians more access to the fostering system. I don't understand why they need that. It's to help with a list of things that they think is relevant. My personal opinion, and this can be speculation, is that it's used to continue the market. And the market is our children. They're taking 400,000 plus children a year from American families, and they're putting them in this system that is oh so corrupted. They don't have enough caseworkers to check on these kids. In 1854, they had no caseworkers at all. So when they released these children into these new fostering families and fostering homes, that's basically where they were. So they were sold. Let's just be honest. Okay? This is the type of things I'm about to cover. So for those of you who support it, any of you who are watching, I implore you to please share my video. Every one of you, whoever is watching this, share my video, like and comment, leave me some feedback. If you have information you think I can use in my article, help me with it. I am open. I will verify what you say, but I'm open to any information. Moving forward past the article, I'm still going to cover my life story, but I will work in stories on missing children, families who's possibly recovered or has not, once I start figuring out how to get that. So any of you who have information on that, help me with it. Help me find out what happens to our kids. Our kids are disappearing in the foster care system. In 2019, the state of Missouri lost 900 and X amount of kids. I'll cover that in my article. Lost them, missing, gone, never reported, never, understand that word, never reported. Meaning the foster families were still receiving checks on these kids every month. And these kids were not there, and they didn't think it was necessary to report that that child never came home. What happened to those babies? And how many other babies just like them are disappearing in every state? And as it sits right now, we're losing upwards to 50 kids a day in the majority of these states, particularly the Northeast region. And so, isn't it funny that they're missing, particularly in the Northeast region where the orphan train started? Just think about that. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I will leave that up to you all. I know that this article is going to be a monster, a beast, and it can take off in so many different directions, depending on how you all take it. But I will ask you all for your help in helping me and you and others understand what they're doing with our kids. Because our kids are our future, and it doesn't matter what their nationality is. The fact still remains that whoever's taking them doesn't give a fuck about what color they are. They're all being taken. They're all being exploited, and we don't know by who. But we do know that whenever I'm through with this article, we'll have a better understanding of what happens to them. So with that being said, I'm you, and you are me, and let's fix each other in unity. And I say that oh so graciously, because unity is definitely what our nation needs to save our future. And our future is our kids. Let's work on that, one at a time, in unity. You all be the difference that makes the difference. And I mean that oh so sincerely. Take that and make it your own. Like, share, comment. Please share. Y'all have a great night.